the shootings in El Paso, President Trump called out what he said, quote, is the glorification of violence and cited video games as a reason for some to turn to shootings. But is there a connection between video games and mass shootings? Team 12's Michael Dowdna is here with a look at that.
Yeah, that's right, Karibe. The president yesterday really put that in one of his center of his speech, putting video games at the center of that debate on how our country can reduce mass shootings. But already there's been pushback questioning how much video games are to blame, if at all.
We are outraged and sickened by this monstrous evil.
At least 31 people killed in 2 states, the latest in a long line of mass shootings.
In the 2 decades since Columbine,
these teenagers coming out of Columbine High School,
our nation has watched
it is a tragic scene
with rising horror and dread as one mass shooting has followed another.
This week, President Trump calling for change while calling out video games.
And we must stop the glorification of violence in our society. This includes the gruesome and grisly video games that are now commonplace.
But beyond the rhetoric, is there a link between the shots fired in these video games and in these shootings?
Research and opinion are relatively divided.
Farah Hockey is a psychologist and says while there have been some correlation between video games and violent behavior, there is nothing proving that the two are directly linked.
You have to also take into account their family life, their history of mental illness, aggression in their own home.
And the numbers do back that up. If you isolate just video game purchases and gun deaths by country, of the 5 countries that buy the most video games per person, well, the United States has 9 times more deaths by firearms than the next closest country.
Video games are a multi-billion-dollar industry and a lot of people play video games. Most people do not commit violent behavior.
While there have been studies linking video games with an increase in aggressive behavior, it is just one of many factors which could play a role.
So it's a factor, but not the factor.
Now, as of right now, there is no proof that either the 2 shooters in these incidents actually were related to and had a infatuation with these violent video games. Also, there is no Maine legislation dealing with video games at this point. Now, at this point, I'll send it back over to you, Karibe.